Hello and welcome to another IELTS essay writing video. In this video, I would like to share a tool with you that you may or may not be aware of. What you see on the screen is a chart with descriptions of the attributes different band levels are expected to exhibit on the Task 2 portion of the written IELTS exam. This chart is available publicly on the internet, and I will link to it in the sidebar of this video if you're interested to have a look for yourself. Before we look at this chart in detail, I would like to share an experience with you that I had this past week. I met with a colleague of mine who is an IELTS examiner, and I presented this chart to him and asked him how clearly or how exact this chart matches the criteria that he uses when he marks IELTS essays. And he shared quite a bit of information that I think you will find interesting. The first piece of information that he shared was that he corrects between 10 and 20 essays per hour. So in 1 hour, he can correct as many as 20 essays. Now this means that he is spending 3 to 6 minutes per essay. And this may seem like a short period of time, but it should be remembered that IELTS examiners are trained professionals and can very accurately measure the difference between, for example, an essay written at a 6 level and an essay written at a 6.5 level. And the reason that there is such accuracy and such consistency between all IELTS examiners is that they follow a very strict rubric. A rubric is a marking scheme, which is basically a list of a number of skills that the IELTS exam taker must show in their response to their essay question. Now that rubric is exactly similar to the information presented in this chart. Now let's look at this in detail together. Basically, you can see 5 columns. On the far left, you see the band score. And then there's a list of broad skills that must be possessed by the student to achieve a high mark on the IELTS exam. In the first column, we can see task response. Task response has to do with how well the student responds to the essay question assigned to them. How clearly does the answer fulfill what has been asked of them in the question? Column number 2 deals with coherence and cohesion, which is the ability of the essay to link different ideas together, both at a sentence level, at a paragraph level, and at an entire essay level. All of the ideas must link, and they must do this through cohesive phrases. How are these cohesive phrases used? Are they used in a fluent manner, or are they somewhat misworded and difficult to follow? The fourth column you can see is the lexical resource column. And this deals with the ability of the students to use a variety of vocabulary and phrasing and a measure of how accurately they can display this skill. The final column is the grammatical range and accuracy column. And this deals with the ability of the student to write grammatically correct sentences and to employ proper punctuation and to avoid even minor errors such as spelling. So all of these different topics are covered in this chart. And the skills and the expectations for each different band level are listed quite clearly. Now, we won't go through everything in detail, but I wanted to point out some very major differences to you. If you are interested to know what the difference is between a 3 band and a 4 band, or a 6 band and a 6.5 or 7 band. Now, if we start at the very bottom, of course, a 0. 0 is a student who does not attend their IELTS exam. A 1 is someone who writes so incoherently that the examiner does not know what is being written. And 2 is equally problematic. Now, let's start at level 3. Now, a level 3 writer will write with numerous spelling mistakes. Their basic punctuation will be incorrect or completely missing. So they will employ a number of run-on sentences. These are sentences that are simply too long. Cohesive phrases, so the ability to link ideas together using phrases like "as this shows," "as can be seen from this," "in conclusion," "firstly," "secondly," "on the other hand," "as is clear from this data," "as this data clearly shows." These sorts of phrases. These phrases are either not used or they are used completely incorrectly. Structure at a band 3 is lacking. Structure is a skill that can clearly be seen based on whether the student is employing or displaying their ability to separate their ideas into various paragraphs. Did the student write one large paragraph? Well, that is a very big mistake. Did the student write a number of little paragraphs? Or did the student write little titles above each paragraph? These are also things that we don't want to do on the exam. The task at a band 3 level is a complete failure. The student did not understand the essay question. They wrote an essay on a topic that does not relate to what the essay question is asking. This would include students that write a discussion essay when they should have written an argument essay, or students that presented their argument at the beginning of their essay when they were asked to analyze the opinions of others. These are the kinds of essays that fall into a band 3 level. Okay, now let's go up the chart. We'll skip 4 and we'll go directly to 5. Now 5 is an essay that employs cohesive devices. So they are using phrases such as this shows, or as is clear from this. These sorts of phrases are being used, but they're being used incorrectly, and they're being used incorrectly quite often. So for example, a student that writes "on the other hand." Now this is a phrase that is used in English to show an opposite, or to show an extreme, based on some information given before. A student writing at a band 5 level will have noticeable spelling errors. Their simple sentences might be accurate, but anything that's a little bit longer than a simple sentence will be incoherent and will be very, very difficult to understand. Okay. Band 5 level, the complex sentences, difficult to understand, the meaning is impeded, the examiner has to think for a period of time to understand what the student is trying to say. Now, the difference between a 5 and a 6. At a 6 level, the task is completed. So the student did recognize the IELTS exam question correctly, and they provided a response that is reasonable, that does answer the question to some extent. There may be some details or examples that are inaccurate or perhaps do not completely support the overall argument, but overall the task and the arguments being presented are understandable. At a Band 6 level, cohesive devices are used more accurately. So linking phrases are employed somewhat with skill. Employed with skill. Both simple and complex sentences are again used with more accuracy. Now, a key to remember when we go on to the Band 7 level, and the difference between a Band 6 and a Band 7 is that a Band 6 may have some small errors, but the errors do not completely impede the meaning from being understood by the reader. So if you remember at a Band 5 level, when the reader reads these sentences, when your examiner reads these sentences, at a Band 5 they may not quite understand what you're talking about. So there's enough mistake in the sentence to impede the meaning. Now at a Band 6 level, there may be some mistakes in the sentence, but the meaning can still be understood by the examiner. Okay, now let's go on to a Band 7. Band 7 writing, the argument is sound. It is supported well. The details given are quite accurate. Cohesion is used properly, and very few instances of cohesion being used incorrectly. There may be some overuse of cohesion, or perhaps some areas where the cohesion is somewhat repetitive, maybe, but overall the cohesion is sound and flows quite fluently when your examiner reads it. A Band 7 level student will write frequently error-free sentences. So there will be a number of sentences in the essay that do not have any grammatical or punctuation or choice of vocabulary errors. The errors that are present in a Band 7 level are quite minor, and they are remote, which means that they're not very common. They're not in every single sentence. Okay, moving up to a Band 8 level. Now, Band 8 writing, the majority of the sentences are error-free. The essay reader may still be able to distinguish that the writer of this essay is not a native speaker. But overall, the essay has very, very minor mistakes and very few errors in choice of vocabulary and choice of cohesive phrases. The task is answered flawlessly. So there is a complete answer given, a direct answer to what the essay question is asking, and extra information or details and examples presented support what is being argued or what is being analyzed completely. This is what constitutes a Band 8 writing level. Now, going up to the band that everyone wants to achieve, Band 9. Band 9 writing is, as you can expect, flawless. There is very, very, very few instances of mistake. And you might not be able to see it, but as they define it here, they call them slips. And slips are basically small mistakes that even happen to a native English speaker. So for example, perhaps a very small spelling mistake, or a maybe the one area where a comma is missing. There's very, very, very few mistakes at this level. Now, the difference between a Band 9 and a Band 8 is that when reading a Band 9, the examiner would have difficulty distinguishing this writing level from an essay written by a native English speaker. So the level of English written at a band 9 is comparable to that written by a native English speaker. I hope that video was somewhat helpful to you. Thank you for listening, and good luck on your exam.